The N64 controller. Some would say it's got quite a weird design, and while that's definitely true, it does mean that a lot of N64 games don't feel quite right unless they're being played with this. Luckily for us, 8BitDo are working on an N64 controller mod kit which not only makes it wireless and makes it compatible with the Nintendo Switch, but also has one other major improvement as well. We've been given early access to this mod kit, so let's see if it's worth the upgrade and if it's easy to install. Imagine a world where you could take your original N64 controller, somehow make it wireless, and then use it to play games on not only the Switch, but the PC too. Well, imagine no longer, because this is where 8BitDo come in. You probably already know about them, after all they're one of the best third-party controller manufacturers around, with one of the popular products being the SN30 Pro, which is basically a SNES controller with dual analog sticks and additional back buttons. But now they've gone a step further with this and developed retro controller mods that work with certain Sega, Sony and Nintendo controllers. This adds in certain features like wireless connectivity, a rechargeable battery, and even compatibility with modern consoles too. For the purposes of review, we were sent the N64 version of the mod kit, and in a lot of ways I actually think that this is the best one to go for. I've never been a fan of the N64 analog stick. It's always felt kinda loose when it's in its neutral position, and yet at the same time quite stiff when you're actually trying to move it. It's not even particularly comfy to have your thumb move around on it either, due to the fact it's entirely made of hard plastic, and overall, it's just not for me. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate it and I respect its legacy, but I just don't want to actually use it. 8BitDo clearly somewhat agree with this too, because this is currently their only mod pack which not only adds in all of those modern features you expect from a new controller, but it also swaps out the analog stick for one that feels more similar to the one you'd find on the GameCube. But the improvements don't stop there, because it's also a Hall effect stick too. To put it simply, this basically means that the stick will last much longer than a standard one and won't succumb to the dreaded stick drift, which is a major issue with standard analog sticks. You might have even experienced this for yourself with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, which seem particularly susceptible to this issue. Before we talk about the other features offered by the mod though, I do want to take a second to just talk about the actual process of fitting it, because this is by far the most intimidating part of the process. For someone who hasn't done anything like this before, this process sounded a little bit daunting. I've literally never even opened up a controller before, never mind fitted in brand new components and then put everything back together again. Luckily, 8BitDo provide you with literally everything you need for the whole process, apart from the controller itself obviously. This includes the main controller PCB, basically the main board which everything attaches to, the rumble pack with a built-in rechargeable battery, the Hall effect joystick, and even the screwdriver needed to take the controller apart. Following the instructions, this is actually a mostly very simple process. However, I did encounter a few things along the way that I want to point out just in case it helps anyone. First off is that on the instructions, the joystick is plugged into a slot pointing towards the top of the controller, whereas in reality, this is the opposite, needing to be plugged into a slot pointing to the bottom of the controller. The wire is nowhere near long enough to plug into the top, so this quickly becomes obvious, but it is a little bit strange how this didn't line up with the instructions. Another thing is that you need to remember to take these soft squishy pads off of the original N64 PCB and then attach them to the new one. These are what make the L, R and Z buttons on the controller work, and for a while I was a bit confused as to how it was supposed to go together without these. The third and final thing I want to point out is that the most difficult part of this entire process for me was actually putting the controller back together. I was having a lot of trouble with keeping the L and R buttons in place while also fitting the controller's shell together, and I actually needed to take it apart again 3 times to get everything feeling perfect. The first time, one of the back buttons literally wasn't pressing down due to an internal component moving during the reassembly process. The second time was that my Z button was far too stiff, and I actually don't know why this was happening because when I took it apart everything looked fine, but I guess something must have been blocking it somehow. And then the third time I couldn't seem to get the rumble pack to fit into the port on the back of the controller. Although with hindsight I do actually suspect that this was just me not pressing down hard enough. It turns out you need to be quite forceful to actually get it to snap into place, but after that it sort of loosens up a bit and is easier to remove and attach. So yeah, if like me, you're brand new to this sort of thing, go into this expecting to need to open it up a few times just to get everything sitting right and working how you want it to. But if you're experienced with this sort of thing and you've modded stuff in the past, you'll probably go into this, get it right on your first try, and it'll be a breeze. But now the fun really begins, because after we've got everything set up and working, we're ready to take this thing on a test drive. The first thing I did was test it on the Nintendo Switch, and it worked flawlessly, instantly connecting and even being recognised by the console as an N64 controller, which is awesome. There's really good attention to detail here with some additional buttons on the rumble pack which allow you to suspend your game, take screenshots and video clips, and go to the home screen. Without this, it would have been extremely clunky to navigate all of these menus, so I'm really glad that they thought of all of this. The new Hall effect stick feels so much better than an actual N64 analog stick, being so much smoother and not giving you any resistance when moving your character around. It's pretty amazing and honestly makes these games much more enjoyable to play. And because this is now a Bluetooth controller, that means it can connect to Android devices and PC as well, where, once again, it works absolutely perfectly. As to be expected from 8BitDo. This is a great controller option for if you're a fan of the N64 library and find yourself emulating it quite a lot. Here's the one catch with this though, you've just taken apart an original N64 controller and turned it into a wireless modern controller compatible with the Switch and PC, right? But by doing that, you've also taken away the actual wire which is needed to plug into the N64 itself. This means that you've removed its compatibility with the console that it's actually designed to work with. This would be fine if 8BitDo had provided some kind of wireless receiver for the N64, and in fact they do just that with their SNES and NES mods, but with the N64, you're out of luck. This seems like a pretty massive oversight and would really only make this useful for people who already have a wireless receiver for the N64, or people who know they'll literally never be using the original console ever again. However, 8BitDo clearly are aware of this and sell a version of the mod that just comes with the Hall sensor joystick and not the new rumble pack or PCB, meaning that you can actually just fit the new analog stick and leave the rest of the controller alone, removing its compatibility with the Switch and PC but retaining its original wire, making it functional with the N64 itself. In the end, this is what I've decided to do, just on the basis that I already have the Nintendo Switch Online version of the N64 controller anyway, and having a better actual N64 controller is probably more useful to me, especially when you consider that this is my only actual N64 controller, and I don't really want to lock myself out of playing stuff on the original hardware. Although there is a good possibility that I'm eventually going to change this back to being wireless, because I did forget that PAL N64 games run significantly slower than their NTSC counterparts, so that is something to keep in mind if, like me, you're from one of those PAL regions. One of the best things about all of this though is that I would actually say that these mods are pretty well priced. The N64 mod costs about $40, which equates to about £32. Considering that the official Nintendo Switch N64 controller costs £40, this is actually quite a good alternative to that, and you've also got to consider that you're getting a better analog stick here as well. The N64 controller mod kit releases on August 10th, 2023, and you can pre-order it now from the 8BitDo website, which we'll link in the description below. Overall, I think this mod kit is pretty awesome. I actually quite like how you can customize it a bit and swap out which components are going to suit you the best. If you know you're going to be emulating a lot, you can just swap out all of the components and turn it into a wireless controller, whereas if you're more of a fan of the original hardware, you can just change out the stick. Whatever you choose to do, at least you're not going to need to put up with that stupid N64 analog stick ever again. But that wraps up my thoughts on the 8BitDo N64 controller mod kit. It actually turned out to be quite a good experience fitting this all together, and it kind of taught me a little bit about how these controllers actually work. And 8BitDo, if you're watching this, we desperately need an N64 wireless receiver. If this existed and came with the mod kit, I could literally recommend this product to anybody who's got one of these controllers just lying around. Either way though, I'm looking forward to seeing where they take this concept in the future. They could even do something with PS2 controllers, which would come in handy for me, considering that a lot of my wires for that console are looking a little bit worse for wear. As per usual though, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe for more retro goodness coming soon, and I've been Rob from Retro Dodo, and I'll see you in the next one.